Rust is a big enemy. And the Range Rover L322 can start to rust in many different places, mainly if it was used on winter salty roads. First of all, let's split the car for 3 sections, and let's start with the front. The hood and the front fenders are made from aluminium, so you are not gonna find rust on these body panels. To look for rust in this area, you will have to remove the front fender liners. There is a high chance that here you will find some rust on various spots, including the inner side of the strut towers. So inspect the whole area properly. This rust is usually still not catastrophic, but you should definitely fix or protect these places preventively. On the other side, what can be catastrophic is the rust of the metallic brake lines. If the rust is major, like in this case, then you should replace the lines immediately, since it's just a matter of time when they burst and the brake fluid will leak out. This will obviously reduce the braking performance significantly, which is dangerous. By the way, while you are in this area, you should also check the rubber brake hoses for cracks. If they are cracked like this, then you should replace them immediately as well. The last part in this section which can rust is the front subframe. Check it properly for rust and check mainly the area under this plastic cover, because dirt and road salt will accumulate here, which will magically turn the metal to dust. Yes, mainly this part can rust out completely, so even holes can appear here. That would be the front part. Let's move on to the middle section. The roof of the car is made from regular steel, and because of the pretty narrow front edge, you can expect bigger or smaller stone chips in this area. These stone chips are gonna rust, so it's better to fix them as soon as possible. All the doors are made from aluminium, so they are not gonna rust. But slight aluminum corrosion will appear over time on spots where the paint gets damaged, like this. The dark metallic trim pieces on the door edges can start to corrode too, plus the thin exterior weather strips under the side windows can start to rust from the inside, as you can see. But it should be still possible to buy all these trim pieces as new genuine parts, even though they are definitely not that cheap. Next, there is the edge of the sill on the driver's side. The paint on this particular place is often damaged because the owners kick it and slide their shoes on it. Over time, this area will look worn and rusty like here, so it's better to protect it preventively with some transparent paint protection film. After this, it's worth to look underneath the car and inspect the underbody main rails. Rust will appear mainly on the lower edges, so it's definitely worth to protect these places and also protect the inner cavities of these rails preventively. Next to the main rails are the inner sides of the sills, which will slowly start to rust as well. Preventively protecting the upper part of the transfer case mounting bracket is also a good idea, since this area is more prone to rust too. To end this middle section, let's check out one of the most notorious rust spots on this car, which are the rear sill edges. Long story short, in Land Rover they decided to put a plastic cover on the outer part of the sills. This would be awesome if the dirt and road salt would not gather in the rear part of the plastic cover, creating a perfect rust growing condition. So this part of the body is in a lot of cases already rusty a lot. And this is not only a visual issue, since the rear jacking point is located on this rear part of the sill as well, which means that the jacking point will rust out and collapse completely. So if you see that the rust is already this much visible, then the rear sill part is already most probably gone. But if you still don't have much rust here, then remove the plastic sill cover and clean this area regularly and eventually protect it preventively. That would be the middle part. Let's move on to the rear section. On the back of the car, the most noticeable rust is often on the upper tailgate. The upper tailgate is made from regular steel and it will start to rust from the inside. The next common rust spot are the fenders. Rust can often form not only on the clearly visible rear edge of the fender, but also on the whole length of the arch on the other side. But this is not all. because after removing the rear fender liners, you can often find even more traces of rust in this area, even though in this case it's usually not that major. After this, it's worth to check the underbody and especially the rear subframe. The rear subframe will be rusty to some extent, and in some cases it can rust out completely on certain spots. Some parts of the rear underside will start to rust as well, so protect these areas while you still can. The rusty rear differential casing can be the icing on the cake, but this is usually just a visual problem. On the other side, a huge problem in the rear can also be the rusty metallic brake lines. First of all, there are the long main brake lines which go from the front to back. These can obviously rust out on the exposed areas, but this is not a surprise. However, on the end of these long main brake lines, you will find another shorter brake lines attached. These are basically rubber flexible lines, but they do have short metallic sections as well, which can rust out and leak. So if you spot rusty brake lines, then replace them as soon as possible. As a bonus, the lower tailgate cables can rust out and snap, so it's good to keep this in mind as well. I guess that's all for the rust. But obviously I'm not saying that all of these cars gonna have this much rust on all these places, but it's definitely good to know all the weak spots. To end this video, let's check out some of the other exterior visual issues of these cars. The headlights on the oldest before facelift models consist of two parts. The side part is made from plastic and the main part is made from glass. You know glass, that strange material which was invented before plastic and which is not gonna fade and not gonna crack by itself. So the main headlight is gonna last a very long time without issues. But the side plastic light is gonna crack, water is gonna get into it, and it is gonna simply disintegrate sooner than you would like. There is also the headlight wiper mechanism, which is gonna fail sooner or later. On the other side, the facelifted L322 has redesigned one-piece headlights made entirely from plastic. In this case, you can expect issues mainly with the headlight cover fading. It's also good to check the fog lights for cracks and if they are working correctly. Another thing worth checking is the huge heated windscreen. Check it for cracks, stone chips, and check if the heating is working, since the windscreen is not the cheapest. The paint on the exterior mirror base can start to flake and chip, so check this as well. In the rear, it's good to focus on the rear windscreen wiper mechanism, which often fails, so check if it's working properly. And the final exterior issue are the tail lights. The tail lights are made entirely from plastic and not good quality plastic, so in many cases the outer plastic cover cracks or gets loose. In this case, water and dirt will slowly get into the light assembly, which will ruin the whole light over time. You can of course buy new tail lights, or you will just fix them freestyle for free, like I did in the past on my cheap Range Rover. I decided to do something with these broken lights for free. So I removed them. 2 screws on the side and a bit of prying on the other side. But as you can see, during this, the outer cover really quickly, almost completely detached itself from the edges of the assembly. However, a moment later, the tail light was out. Removing the outer cover of the light was hilariously easy. So I said, "F it, I'm going to throw it away. There will be no cover." Disassembling the tail light was not hard at all. With some plastic prying tools, you can do it without causing damage to the parts. I also removed the back cover and cleaned it from corrosion. After this, I sealed the edges of the plastic lenses with some random silicone I found. As a bonus, I quickly resprayed the 2 chrome plastic trims to black. Then I just reassembled all the parts, and I found some old screws which I installed on the side of the lights to hold the plastic cover in place. This solution is of course far away from great, but it's at least better than it was. After pressure washing the lights, the left one remained without a water ingress, but the right one had a bit of water behind the lower lens. But whatever.